Nunatsiavut, the north coast of Labrador, is home to 2,355 Inuit living in 5 small communities. Labrador Inuit had the earliest contact with Europeans. In 2005, Inuit of Nunatsiavut were the final Inuit group in Canada to sign a land claims agreement. The agreement recognizes Nunatsiavut's Inuit right to control Inuit schools. Inuit teachers are an essential part of Inuit-controlled, culturally relevant education. And yet Nunatsiavut Inuit who want to become teachers face geographic, social, economic, and personal barriers to pursuing teaching degrees. In 2015, the Nunatsiavut government partnered with Memorial University of Newfoundland to offer a community-based, Inuit-specific Bachelor of Education degree in Goose Bay, Labrador. 14 Nunatsiavut Inuit took the opportunity.
As a child, my dream was to become an Inuit teacher specifically. I took so much pride in Inuit in school, and my Inuit teachers were my mentors and role models.
I always wanted to be a teacher. I had my son when I was 17 years old, so for the next 5-10 years, my whole life was my son, and I have 4 children. So for the longest time in my life was my children, and everything revolved around them and raising them.
So I knew that I wanted to further my education, and I knew I wanted to become a teacher, and moving away from Nain wasn't as hard for me, I guess, because I knew that if I wasn't going to get my education, then there wasn't really anything in Nain for me. So I was in the school working with students who needed like one-on-one. Like after the school year was over, that's when I realized like I really want to work in the school, and I want to be able to help students like that particular student. And like he looked at me like I was a role model, I guess.
Well, I guess I'd always wanted to be a teacher as well. So it was always something in the back of my mind, something that that I could do, but I never really had the drive, I guess, to pursue it until this opportunity unfolded.
It was always in the back of my mind that, yeah, I'd like to be a teacher. And what made it so good was that it was being offered here. And I already tried in St. John's, and that didn't work out. So this program being offered here in Goose Bay was really good. So I applied, and then we had to wait, and then we started in 2014. And since we started, I've realized like even more like throughout our learning, like, yes, this is definitely what I want to do.
I think the main goal is actually the Nunatsiavut, because like everyone like is so lost on the coast. It's like there's not very many speakers left, and we just want to bring it to our children. Like I would love to go back home and teach what I know to the kids of home, because not very many of them are influenced by Nunatsiavut. And I think that's a very important thing, to embrace our culture.
Part of Nunatsiavut's land claim, which was settled 10 years ago, is that they have the right to take over their own schools. And so although they haven't done it yet, they have said that they will when they're ready. And so that makes this program even more exciting, that we're training 14 people, or that's how many students are in the program right now, to be part of a self-governed education system. It's amazing.
Which concept you are trying to build? That's the whole idea. By this middle example, we were trying to tell them that temperature is actually the measure of heat.
After 3 hours, the seal skin mitt temperature stayed warmer than the caribou skin mitt. Hey.
Canada's Truth and Reconciliation Commission Call to Action 10 calls for community engagement, culturally relevant curriculum, and use of Indigenous languages in schools in order to overcome the legacy of residential schools that took children away from their families and communities and suppressed Inuit language and culture. The Inuit Bachelor of Education's processes and outcomes are teaching pre-service teachers to think outside the box, to approach education in new ways, in order to meet the needs of Inuit students.
the way that we've been taught now is when we infuse the culture, we bring something that's familiar to the students, and you link it to something that's unfamiliar. Maybe it's a new concept, some new information that you're teaching them, and you really bring it home for the students so that they understand and they can make a personal connection with what you're teaching.
And everything that we're learning, our instructors, everything is culturally infused, and it makes a big difference to learning. So we're looking at everything through a different perspective and how to see it, and be able to pass that on to the students who need to be able to sense that identity for themselves too.
We're learning about who we are and and then what we can do, but we're also learning what you need to learn to get a regular Bachelor of Education too. So I think definitely grew that way. I'm way more confident than what I was. I've grown more as a person since in this program.
We have to have requirements to be a teacher. If we didn't have these requirements, we wouldn't be qualified to teach students in Nunatsiavut, in Goose Bay, or even on the island. Just because we have our elective courses picked for us that would gear us towards more Aboriginal perspectives doesn't mean that we're any less of a teacher. And I don't think it would hurt for any other teacher to take the same courses as we are. You don't have to be Aboriginal, you don't have to be from an Aboriginal background to take these type of courses to say, I have a Bachelor of Education degree with some knowledge in Aboriginal perspectives or Aboriginal views. I think it would actually help for people who traveled and who intended on working as teachers on the North Coast. Yeah, I think it would.
As an outsider teacher coming in to one of the Nunatsiavut communities, you could have the excuse, I don't know nothing about your way of life. You don't have to be Inuit to be able to practice some of the things that goes on. You can't use that as an excuse anymore. It's not hard to learn someone else's culture if you want to do it.
And I have one wire, one battery, and one bulb. Do you think you can light this bulb? Yep. Yes.
The Inuit Bachelor of Education students are learning to question the status quo. A key to the program's success is the openness of instructors to learn from students. Although the Memorial University faculty members teaching the program are not Inuit, they invite students to teach them how to incorporate Inuit ways of learning, knowing, and teaching into their courses. They help students understand the alternative ideas and misconceptions learners might have, and how they, as future teachers, can explore these in their classrooms.
Oh, yes, yeah.
We got it. One thing that has struck me about the way we've been, our lessons have been going, what we've been taught, is it's through the example of the teachers. They're teaching us things, but by the way that they do it, we're learning from them in that moment. We're doing things in our classroom, the way that we're being taught is the way that they're teaching us to teach our own children. That's right, eh? So we're like the students, obviously we are, the university students, but they teach us in a way that they would hope that we can bring to the kids that we will teach. And that's been like, if you can call it, that's real hands-on learning.
But none of us can teach what Inuit culture is. So it's a give and take in terms of that reciprocity of teaching and learning, and who's the teacher and who's the learner at any given time. We also make sure that they're connected to elders or traditional knowledge holders or local knowledge holders. And so across the courses, various instructors have connected students to elders and knowledge holders in whatever way seems appropriate for the course.
Inuit elders are looked up to as teachers in Inuit culture, yet young Inuit do not always have access to learn from them. The Inuit Bachelor of Education program created spaces for learning from elders in the core educational program and in a parallel language program.
We had somebody come in to teach us how to build snowshoes. We had someone come in went to teach us how he built his own wooden canoes. So we also went to the Christian youth camp, and they had two elders come down and speak to us about dear life. And we related that to math. So he's compared to, like, if the tree is bowless on one side and it's pointing towards this way, you can kind of tell it's usually southerly winds in this area. The winds are always blowing from the south. So they was giving us their traditional knowledge that we could take and use that as an aspect of math or science in the classroom.
Students are learning to use the land as a teaching resource, and also to return to the land as a teacher and as a healer.
We have Michelle, who's our cultural consultant, so like she sets up the stuff for fishing trips, or we went dog sledding once. Like, we do get a break from school in the middle of semester or at the end of semester just to get out and do that and be outside.
We went on like a dog sitting outing, so our whole class had a chance to go dog sitting here. When we came back, we had to write a reflection on how it affected us, on how we can learn from it and teach students in the future what they could learn from dog sitting.
One topic could flow from subject to subject in one single day. Like, take the ice. We have life skills classes along the coast. You can take the kids out ice fishing. That could be their experience. And then you go into science and you can talk about the weather, the ice conditions, temperatures, what are needed, or salt water, what kind of sea life inhabit that kind of water. Math, you could take into account how many fish is caught, how much they weigh, certain characteristics of them. It's endless what you can do with, and that's culturally relevant, something that the kids connect to because they goes off on the weekend.
I see that there isn't much lack of resources, just lack of resources for books and material to tell you what to do, like a curriculum guide. But there's so much more outside the community, like with the people, and yeah, there's a lot we can do.
Yeah.
It's just not in books. Yeah, it's just more hands-on experience. We got to find it.
Throughout the last 3 years, I really realized that there is no one way to do it, and that if you're able to think outside of that box and kind of get away from that that structured learning, and you can delve into different things in the community and really relate it to any curriculum. And that's one thing that we kind of got to refocus the way that we think about education. Yeah. And that's one of the things that we're learning in this program.
Any way that we can connect the land of Nunatsiavut with what they're doing in their courses is important. And so you can talk about the land and the cultural connection as they're learning to develop lesson plans. And so that's something that I always either challenge them with or else make a requirement for what I'm doing in my courses, which is, in whatever way you decide, make sure there's a cultural component in there, or make sure that there's a land connection. The focus is on the outcomes. The question is, how do you get there in a culturally relevant way?
Many of the Inuit Bachelor of Education students had not previously had opportunities to learn about how generations before them had lived, nor had they learned about the history between Inuit and European settlers that led to the rapid changes and culture and language loss. Young Inuit struggle with the loss of language, culture, and traditions, and the introduction of new institutions and new ways. Today, only 21%, or 1 in 5, of Nunatsiavut Inuit speak Inuktitut. Most speakers are older adults. To combat this loss, these pre-service teachers took an intensive conversational Labrador Inuktitut training program alongside their Bachelor of Education degree.
So we've got the Inuit Bachelor of Education program that we're infusing the LITP with. So these students over the next 3.5 to 4 years will be taking Inuktitut in every semester, as well as 2 Memorial University Inuktitut courses that are credited. So these people are being trained as educators with an Inuit-specific curriculum. that will also be having the language, an important part of our culture and tradition. So it's just a full circle, and I'm very, very hopeful that they will learn to use what knowledge they have, and they'll practice and practice, and they'll get more confident, and they'll have more pride and the attitude, bringing back new teachers into our communities.
The Labrador Inuktitut training program is a conversationally based language learning program. It was developed by language researchers and the Nunatsiavut government. It is taught by Nunatsiavut elders and fluent speakers who carry the burden of making sure the language continues to the next generations.
I'm just enjoying the sun or enjoying the weather.
Silakya
Tuinahunga.
Yeah, I'm just enjoying the weather, the day.
Okay, nakumik.
Our Inuit language is almost at a place where it's almost extinct, and we don't have a lot of speakers, as well as you know. So, and the numbers are drastically being going down. Yeah, I'm really glad to see that program on the go, because there's a lot of, I had been hearing through the years, a lot of students want to learn Inuit, especially when they leave the school setting area. Mm-hmm. And when they're out in their own communities, you can hear a lot of people saying, "Oh, I wish I had paid attention in Inuk when I was being taught," stuff like that. So, I think with the where there's a Bachelor of Education there now, I think it's going to really enhance the use of Inuktitut as well. I'm hoping that it will.
I wanted to help some way with my language. I want to give it to somebody, because my grandfather used to say that whatever you got in you, if you don't share it, it's not going to spread. It's just going to stay in me. Some people think that they're going to be bilingual by the time they're finished. I don't think you'll ever become a bilingual unless you keep doing it. Do it at home, do it at school, do it outdoors, do it at store, do it at bathroom, do it wherever. You just constantly do it. When I look at them speaking now, and it's really cool. It's very exciting, and sometimes I even cry when And then when they're speaking it and speaking to each other, oh, sometimes I cry. I mean,
You're so proud of them.
I'm always proud of anybody that's learning Inuktitut.
Panuingituk, Alsagya gumavin.
Alsagya gumavunga, kita alsagya gumangulala.
Suman.
Agarhang nituk.
Ay.
At tunay, sila kisanay.
Ilay.
My grandmother, my great-grandmother spoke Ali Inuktitut, and then with the residential schooling stuff, she wasn't allowed to speak it anymore to her children, so then it got lost. It was only 3 generations ago, so.
Yeah, I think there's a big disconnect with the residential school issues, but growing up, I thought I'd be able to keep it going, but where I didn't practice it myself, it was kind of hard. But with this program, at first my expectations was I'm going to come out of this fluent, but realistically, I don't see it happening, and I need to practice it myself outside of the classroom to be able to bring it all together.
I done Inuktitut in school from kindergarten to grade 12, but like I mentioned today, it's only one class. It's like you go to a science class, you go to a math class, you go to an English class. Same with Inuktitut. It's not in every class. So when we were younger, we learned their colors, our numbers, gestures to say hello or bye or what's the weather like. And as we went further on into high school, it didn't really develop. You didn't build on skills that you learned in the primary and elementary grades. It just kind of flowed. You weren't retaining any information that would be useful as a language outside of high school.
Even when I am home, I've talked with elders, and where my confidence is not there with the language, I shy away from trying to talk with the elders. I feel like I'm insulting them by not knowing our mother tongue, and it plays a lot on my conscience, which should push me to try even harder.
They wanted to learn. They were there for that. And when they want that, like, it made my job a lot easier to teach. Yeah. And like, we had a lot of fun too, so what I did do was have singing first. Like in the beginning, because like when you sing, like you start hearing the vowel sounds, the way Inuit sounds, and like this when you start losing your tongue. So when you're singing, it loosens a lot of it, right? So you're able to pronounce proper. So that's one thing that I really pushed on, was like the singing. So we used the module style to learn Inuit, like from the beginning. I think it was conversations in the beginning first, like we were able to talk to the students and have a little conversation, so that was real nice. Like, I find that when you're having more conversations, you tend to learn a lot more than just paper and pencil.
So I struggle not growing up hearing Inuit as well. You know, when I think back of how much Inuit I've learned from day one to now, you know, I don't think I know a lot now, but then I look back and I'm like, wow, I knew a lot less then, you know?
Yeah. At the beginning, I struggled with a lot, but if I go back now and look at what we did learn, like I can say, and I could say all the words that I didn't know how to say before. We got a exam coming up on all the modules that we covered, and it's like almost 30 modules now, hey. And when I go through my big binder, it's really big, when I go through my big binder, like, it's amazing. I'm like, oh yeah, I know that. So it definitely is working.
My grandmother, she knows some of the language, so me and her, whenever we get a chance, we talk and stuff, and it's really good because she gets really excited. And in the program, learning so much, I can just picture myself using that in the classroom. And I mean, I'm not by no means going to be fluent at that, but I definitely want to incorporate as much as I can.
I don't expect, honestly, to come out of this program fluent, but I do expect that I'll feel like a deeper sense of connection and knowing, just being able to learn some of the language that my ancestors spoke. So I wanted my son to be able to experience that, like, right from the start. Like, I want him to know at a young age that this is important and this is where he comes from. And in order for you to be confident and content as a person, it's so important for you to understand where you came from.
In October 2016, the Inuit Bachelor of Education students presented at the 20th Biennial Inuit Studies Conference in St. John's, Newfoundland and Labrador. The conference, co-hosted by Memorial University of Newfoundland and the Nunatsiavut government, featured presenters from around the world.
So our piece is language, and we're going to explain why we want to revitalize our language and how we're going to do that.
Family is so central to Inuit. And alongside that, for the Labrador Inuit, we are the most southerly Inuit. We pushed forward to bring back to our families tools, resources, ideas. And through that process, we pushed so far that for some of us, at least for me, the connections to our language and to our culture became very tenuous. And so I am so excited and grateful to be part of the Inuit Bachelor of Education program. I'm grateful to Nunatsiavut, and I'm especially grateful to our teachers, Susanna Jarusi, Selma Jarusi, who brings to us her healing journey and helps us reconnect to our ancestors' spirit, and especially to Sarah Townley, whose eyes sparkle when she's teaching us, and I feel the synapses in my brain become activated. Because we move our bodies, our 5 senses are activated as well. We touch things as we name them, and in this way, our language becomes alive.
We speak it. Okay, so picture this, like you actually have to picture this. You see a little baby girl or a baby boy, and in English, you describe them. So you use, oh my goodness, you're so cute. You're so beautiful. I could just hug you. I could just squeeze you. I want to come over and take you home with me. These are all the emotions and the feelings and the words you use to describe how you have these emotions for when you see that little baby girl or baby boy. In Inuktitut, we say, I could just ugeak you. I want to ugeak you. I want to come over and I want to squeeze you. I want to hug you. I want to love you. I want to take you home with me. In Inuktitut, it's important. When we transfer our language from Inuktitut to English, it's lost in translation. You can't describe the feeling you have when you say, I want to ugeak you in English.
We teach it. In the Truth and Reconciliation Commission's call to action, Aboriginal languages are a fundamental and valued element of Canadian culture, society, and there is an urgency to preserve them.
Kinakut, ilimnya langayut, ukhala langayut, ilimnya tutsi langayut inutut. Who will learn? Who will speak, and who will teach Inuktitut? Uvanga.
When we went to the Inuit Studies Conference, like it felt like it was an appointed time for us all. Like, you know, and to talk like that, it may seem like you're just in school or whatever. But when you think about everything that's happening here and our instructors, and it's more than just learning. It's about like rediscovering yourself and creating yourself and learning who you are as a person and your identity as an Aboriginal person.
You start to realize how important culture is and to put it in your education when you see all Inuit, like Inuit from all around together, talking, like speaking one voice, and you all share this unity and this feeling for who you are.
This is an example of a resource created in our education class with Dr. Moore. We made this wall hanging to visually represent the Inuit societal values from the National Inuit Education Strategy. We decided as a class to use the Labrador colors of white, green, and blue.
All right, so we're gonna go, since I don't have a pointer, these 4 blocks, the ones that are on top around the Inukshuk's head, represent the Northern Lights and stand for laws of relationship. The 8 blocks that make up the Inukshuk represent the laws that provide guidance.
The opportunity to share what they were learning at the Inuit Studies Conference and to learn from Inuit scholars and allies from across the Inuit homeland marked a turning point for the students.
I think it really stirred us. A lot of us, we weren't angry in that way, but it was like we could not believe that this is the reality we live with. When we went outside and we saw people who accepted us, like they didn't look at me and say, well, I think your eyes are green, so you're not Inuk. And it felt so amazing just to sit there in yourself, who you were, and just realize like I'm fine here. I belong here.
I'm a part of
yeah,
it.
I don't have to explain anything. I don't have to think that I can't speak Inuktitut strong enough, or I don't have I don't talk a certain way or look a certain way. It didn't matter.
Dorothy and Saika and everyone that taught us, they are here for us, and you can tell they're here for us and how bad they want this for us. And when we went to St. John's, you could tell they're rooting for us because everyone was crying for when we done our presentation, everyone was crying. It was such an emotional time because everyone's so excited for us. And do you know what? When people are happy for you, that actually makes you want to do it more because they know you're going to make a difference.
I'm really happy with the way the program is turning out. It's beyond what any one person could create. It's been co-created. It is what it is, not just because of the ideas and the program, but it's who the students are. It's who the administrators are at the Faculty of Education. It's from Nunatsiavut's continued support in this, the ongoing conversations that I have with people such as Jody, feedback from the students. So it is not only co-created, it continues to be co-created. And I think what's happened is that it's become bigger than anyone. It has taken on a life of its own, and we're just all part of that.
The Inuit Bachelor of Education program focused on process as well as outcomes. Its cohort model is an essential ingredient to success. The students use the metaphor of geese flying in formation to describe their leadership and the way they support each other.
And my son loves to hunt. He loves everything he learns about hunting. He usually tells me or explains it to me. So he was talking about the geese and how they fly in a V, and he was explaining like when one gets tired, he usually goes to the back of the line and another one takes over, and if they're over a certain terrain, like that they might be different to them, that another one will take over. So they takes turns taking leads, and they all fly in a V. So there's always one in the front, but the other ones are always in the back supporting the main one.
And there's been so many times where a lot of us have been like, I'm done, like I'm tired, I don't want to do this. And like we're super fortunate that we get to do it at home, but we still do have children, and our lives have been completely put on hold, and we're working part-time jobs, and sometimes just trying to juggle it all, it can be a little bit overwhelming. But when one of us falls, all the others are around us like, do you know what, if we're in this together, like we're going to do this, we're going to get it done, like what do you need, what can I help you with? And I've never had an experience where I felt like I was alone, never.
It's like a family. Yeah. A lot of us, that's the big thing for us to come here. We had to leave home and our children and our security, because I think when you come from a small place, that's all you have, are your relationships and your close-knit family to support you and stuff. So when you leave it, it's really hard sometimes, and you need another family. So I think that's why maybe we've all become that family for each other.
For the Inuit Bachelor of Education students and their families, this innovative program is a gift, but also a sacrifice. The students are motivated by the dream of better educational experiences for the children in their communities and a better future for Inuit.
I'd really like to be a role model for students to say, you could do it too. Like, it might be hard, it might take time, but you could be a teacher, you could be a nurse, you could be a doctor, you could be anything you want if you try. And if they see other people in the community who have left and come back to make the community better in some way, hopefully that they would too.
I'm hoping to go back on the coast because we are trained to teach these children. As a teacher, I want to be a motivator, and I want to show every child that they can do anything they put their mind to.
To me, like at this point, it's been really effective. And I think we're really going to be able to make a difference, like when we're all done. It's going to be amazing.
I still want to be an Inuit teacher, or it will be a big part of doing my lessons in any other subjects. I want to incorporate it, and I think being on the coast, I'll be able to without missing out on the curriculum outcomes, I'll be enhancing it rather than taking away from it.
Nai ni mo dai guma bunga angutia tapani sulumani matamaita nalingi au guma bunga Nunatsiavut piunwama akalia guma bunga.
This has got to be one of the hardest things I've ever done, but we're still here and we're still doing it. And yep, I'm glad that I'm here, and I'm glad that I had friends who could see that in me, that potential, and that no matter what was going to happen, I was going to get here. So I'm grateful for that.
Hatanguti kulubullo Ilinyavik piung itoalo Sulia hapanginata Paingutuinalikugudma Hatanguti kulubullo Ang kakasali alakugud Inuviani hayumi Tingi yukuti kilapugud Takulali rapsi Tingi yukuti kilapugud Takulali rapsi